franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book, I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Ladies, have you ever wondered where all the real men have gone? Do you turn to your women friends because you cannot find a true man in your life? Do you want the man in your life to step up and know what it means to be a man that can make you feel like the woman that you are? Are you tired of mothering the men you date? Give these boys the gift of manhood. The book, I'm a Man, That's My Job, teaches men to create their own seduction persona, personal inner game, and how to take the lead in a relationship. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be. In studio today with Mr. Scot McKay. How you doing there, Scott?
Doing great, man. Ready for action.
All right. Now, in the last interview segment, you briefly talked about a marriage that you were involved in, where it sounds like you started off very strong. Sounds like it was a decent relationship at the beginning. And then the relationship deteriorated over time, and by the end of it, you were no longer the man that you used to be, and you had to build yourself up again. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience without having to go into too much detail, and how you think it relates to your ability today to work with guys as a dating coach?
Well, I'll tell you, I found myself in a town that wasn't the biggest metro area working with disadvantaged kids. You know, I used to work with gang kids. So I was in a town in the southwest part of the United States that, you know, wasn't exactly a metropolis, but was along the Mexican border. And I got to be 28 years old, and I said, you know, that phrase, which is the ultimate kiss of death for both men and women alike, which is, it's time for me to get married. I need to be married just because I'm at the age where I should be, right? I mean, this is a poisonous thought, right?
You don't think
by that? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You don't think though that at some point age does factor in, at least for women, in terms of a biological clock?
I think it most certainly can. But at age 28, what I wouldn't realize, what I couldn't see in a crystal ball, was that I would be divorced again at age 36, or divorced at age 36, and that I would be able to completely rebuild my dating life, choose a great woman, and not only marry her, but have a son by the time I was 40. Or actually just after my 41st birthday, which is how old I am now. So, in reality, I didn't meet that woman until I was 38. I could have been single till 38, and it would have been fine. You see what I mean?
Yeah, but don't you think that part of the reason that you can have such a strong relationship now with your current wife is because of the experiences you had in the past, including the failed marriage?
Yeah, I think at one level, definitely. You know, for sure, I think when you're 28 and you say to yourself, I'm going to get married to the woman who's in front of me right now because she likes me, she seems like someone I could get along with, and it's time for me to get married, I still would maintain that's a wrong-headed reason to get married. And that most people panic at an age that's a lot younger than they should be panicking at. We just had a guy who I coached who's getting married for the first time at 44. And he's planning a family. And, you know, I think things will go well for him. But I think whenever you're in a mindset that you're letting outside forces that you perceive control you rather than making your own decisions, I think you get in a position where you're going to settle for the wrong person. And I think in many ways that's what I did. Because she was very beautiful, and she was very fun to hang out with. She was very adventurous, you know. She was willing to go out and have a good time in all the good ways, you know. And what I didn't see, because I chose not to, were the red flags that said she was going to probably be just a little bit less than stable as we got on. And the horrifying part is I decided, okay, well, I'm going to marry her anyway because I need to be married. I want to start a family, etc. And we got married, And within 6 hours of our marriage, she was a completely different person and stayed that way. And I'm not the first guy I've ever had this. I've seen this happen to. So, yeah, I mean, that threw me for a loop to begin with. And again, I said, okay, well, based on what I happen to believe about how marriages should work, I don't believe in divorce. So, this has got to be some kind of weird aftershock effect. And I kind of waited out her settling down from that and becoming the person I always knew she was. And weeks turned into months and it wasn't happening. And then suddenly it's like, wait a minute, I can't just go annul this. I'm sort of stuck. And now I'm in a marriage where I'm not happy, but I'm going to not quit. I'm not going to be the quitter. And I'm going to look around me and say, look, there's other guys who got it a lot worse than I do, so I'm just going to, make lemonade with the lemons, right?
Uh-huh.
That was all a mistake. And, I don't want to make it out as my ex-wife was a bad person. The truth of the matter is she was diagnosed with an illness that I can't blame her for. And just like I couldn't blame someone for being diabetic, I can't blame her for being diagnosed with a severe mental illness, but she was already showing signs of the progression of that very shortly after we got married.
Do you still have any contact with her? Are you still friends today?
Well, she's the mother of my daughter. You were going to ask about, or you did ask about how this shaped who I am today and how I teach. There's no way to be angry at someone or to harbor resentment against someone who's got a mental illness and is living in a different reality. But as a man who likes to think in terms of either things are or they aren't, and trying to come to logical conclusions of things, I still try to fall into the trap sometimes of reasoning with a woman who cannot be reasoned with. I mean, she has a firmly held belief in stuff that just isn't based in your reality and mine. And, it's just like anything else that's neurological, even like a Parkinson's disease or an Alzheimer's. She has good days and bad days. And I just have made a decision within the past few years, I'm not going to let her get me upset. I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to let her own me like that. And she'll go through days where she's perfectly nice to me. By the way, she's the mother of my daughter, so yes, I have ongoing contact with her. And, sometimes she's perfectly cooperative. Other times she just wants to throw a roadblock in there for completely irrational reasons. And what that means is I just have to work around it. But I'm not going to let it negatively affect my frame of mind anymore.
I see a common thread here. You said earlier in this interview that you worked with a lot of troubled youth, gang kids, and so on. And I see the way you're dealing with now your ex. How important, and I think this applies to our industry as well, how important is the topic of forgiveness? Because someone going through what you went through, I have to believe that a number of men would be harboring a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, becoming misogynistic. And what I'm hearing from you is a very forgiving source. And I'm wondering, was that because of the work you were doing with troubled youth, where you had to be very forgiving? Is that something that you were raised with? Where do you think the forgiveness comes from? And do you think that it's a necessary element for a man to come from a position of strength?
You have two very similar but different facets of that conversation. I want to cover both of them. First of all, the whole concept of working with the gang kids. Gang kids are trained in the art of manipulation. They're masters at it. And they can look you in the eye and tell you one thing when something else is the truth, and they think they're doing what's right in that situation. So I've said this before, I've got a BS detector that would make